hardly hear her.
Yes.
Exactly.
Any tips on what I should do to make myself heard a little bit more?
Yes. But do you know, are you on your iPhone on your browser, or did you download the Adobe Connect app? Oh, okay, yeah. And because on the app, let me check. Somewhere there's a button where you can increase your volume. Let me check where it is. I'll open my own. Okay, that's also very important. And I can hear you clearly, it just sounds a bit far away.
Yeah, I can hardly hear Lisa.
I have the same problem, yes.
Oh yeah? Well, I do hear Lisa quite clearly, but just a little bit far.
Hi, Goran.
Hi.
Hi.
Sorry, I thought I already connected video, but I needed to start sharing.
Yes. So, good to see you.
Hey, great that your audio is already working. Yeah.
So how do I pronounce your name? Is it Goran?
We get 3 guesses, 1 each.
Okay.
No, it's Göran.
Joran.
Göran.
Oh,
Okay.
and you're based in Sweden, isn't it?
Great.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's great. I'm now also connected on my telephone, Lisa. I'm just trying to figure out where the volume is on your phone. I guess it's on the.
Oh, I see it. Is that
on the right? On the right hand
Okay,
side there's a
yeah.
microphone.
Well, the sound is improving.
Oh, good. Can you hear me now?
Loud and clearly.
Yes.
Oh, good.
For me, it's almost too loud.
I'm sorry.
But for the others, now it works fine. Because I hear it quite clearly. Yes. So where are you based, Lisa?
In Switzerland.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Right.
Oh,
Now there's a big echo.
yeah.
Yeah. Maybe let me try. By mute, I'm going to mute you, Lisa, because I think the echo now better. Yeah.
Yeah, now it's gone.
Yeah. So Lisa, if you're on the iPhone or your telephone, if you have some earplugs, it will reduce the echo.
And Göran, did you drop out or was it on purpose?
No, I was disconnected for a few seconds.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I had to log in again.
Ah, well, hopefully this is the only time.
I mean, my Wi-Fi connection seems stable, but I don't know what happened.
Okay.
Well, we wait for Chris because he is online, as you can see in the list of participants, but we haven't heard or saw him.
Her.
Oh, her. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, her. Yes. Okay.
I was wondering if it's him or her. Yeah.
Okay. Good that you say. In the Netherlands, it's really a typical male name. Yeah.
She is Dutch, actually.
Oh, really? Oh.
It's Dutch, yeah.
No, then I learned something new now. And I think Joost was not sure if he would join us. Am I right? He would try,
Okay.
but
Yes, I know. And Edmund definitely couldn't make it because he got stuck at the airport.
yes. And then we have Patricia.
Yeah, so we're still waiting for Patricia,
Yeah.
Patricia, Lucia.
Yeah, Patricia, I haven't heard from her, so I tried to connect to her, but I don't know her either, so it was a bit like, yeah, a good try, but I haven't heard back.
Yeah. Yes. Oh yeah, you told us before that it is not very easy to connect with her.
Joran, are you in close contact to Patricia in Namibia?
Okay, yes I am. And I actually emailed with her like 1 hour ago on a different matter.
Okay, but that's already good news, because then we know that she's working as...
She wasn't unavailable then, but I don't know about her participation here.
But there was you didn't talk about this webinar, so...
No, we didn't mention this. It was a completely unrelated thing. Yeah. She's part of the program.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Lucia is arriving.
I need to say also that I have another call starting at 3:30 with the Global Conservation Initiative on Human Rights steering group. So, if possible, I would like to sort of slip out of this meeting at 3:30.
Okay.
Otherwise, if needed, I can stay on for a short while longer. But
but not till the end, 4 o'clock. Okay.
Preferably not.
You already had a kind of challenging program, so now you make it even more.
I know. But maybe once we get started, I will have to prioritize one or the other. Yes. So let's see where we stand.
Yes, of course.
At 3:30.
Yes. And I see Lucia has joined us. Lucia, if you can hear us, can you type in the chat on the right-hand side? And the same for Chris. Oh yeah, Lucia is typing. Okay.
Okay.
Chris also, that's good. Yeah. And so for both Lucia and Chris, in the top menu you see a microphone. If you click on the triangle, you can do connect my microphone. And then you can also talk. And then the button, the microphone is now white, and it will turn green if it's connected. So...
Okay,
so I think...
Yes.
Yes, I can... Yes, great. Yeah.
And was
so
it...
then... yeah.
Was it Lucia or was it Chris?
I think it was Chris, huh?
Yeah, I think I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you have a camera on your computer? Because it would be nice to even see you, and in that case you need to connect your webcam. There is this icon next to the microphone icon where you can connect it. Hey, Lisa.
Yes. Do you see me?
Yes, I see you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Lucia, now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Good to see you and hear you. And well, I'm glad that it worked out for all of us. Edmund is stuck on the airport in Nairobi, so he regret that he couldn't make it. And Patricia, we will contact her and see if she can join next time, because I don't expect her to be here this time. But happy to be able to work with you. The first of 3 sessions, and you already started with the whole design process of an e-learning on social policies. What we would like to do today is, well, of course, introduce ourselves and get to know you a little bit better, and also dive into the topic to see if we can make a start with the learning goals for the e-learning and blended learning trajectory that we are going to design. And also give you an idea of the process that we have in mind for the next couple of weeks. Chris, is it okay? Can you still hear us? Because I see you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chris, is your sound okay? Yeah. Okay. Let me see what we can do, because I think now the sound is not that good for you.
Yeah, there is an option to set up a call, a telephone number. I don't know if that would be more stable.
She's in Suriname.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we should do that, Joyske.
Yeah.
Or we could try to try another browser. I'm not sure if that will work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are you going to work on the audio line, or?
Shall I do it? Yeah.
Yes.
And then I have to find yeah.
And then I continue. Is
okay.
That
then
yeah. Because
I'm going to start the telephone line. It may be that there's a small interruption, but I hope it's not too long.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can. Lucia is nodding.
Yes. Okay, yeah, that's good. Yes.
Okay.
And then I will.
You disconnected my microphone. I have connected again.
Okay.
Yeah, that might be it. Yes. And then if Sibren, if you continue,
yes.
I will send the dial-in, the telephone number to.
Yes, that's fine.
To Chris.
Yes. Okay. Just to a short introduction of Joyske and me, because we already started in the Facebook group. But we work as NU Online. It's a small company in the Netherlands, and we do a lot of things with online learning, social learning, and our focus is on the more practical side and learning with and from each other. So we do a lot of trajectories on blended learning and e-learning. So, and Joyske comes from, well, she can talk a bit more about it herself, but she comes from the development area, and I have an educational background. So we also have experience with NGOs and organizations in that sector. In the couple of weeks we have 3 sessions like this, and we would like to see if we can make it working sessions. So we can do some work in the sessions and even in between the sessions. And what we would like to do is on the 18th of September, there is a meeting, and for that session we would like to have the blended learning trajectory in a design. So we would like to have the building blocks, the content, the learning goals, the materials, so we are able to propose the idea for this blended learning trajectory on the 18th and build upon it afterwards. And of course we definitely need you for the content of this whole process. And for today our aim is to
I will have to
yeah, you're right, Lisa. Yeah. This music is because
oh my god.
because of the audio line.
Moet ik even nog? Kijk, ik heb die...
We wouldn't expect to need the audio line, so normally we do this before, and then it's all set up. So then only we have this weird music. Oh, Joost is also coming. Well, maybe I continue and we talk later because we have one question for you. And to use the chat. Can you hear me or is it too difficult?
It's a bit... yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask, you said the 18th. We have 2 meetings on the 16th, on the 17th, 18th, and on the 18th, 19th. Sorry, 19th, 20th. So,
okay.
Has it been agreed on a time for the 18th?
Oh, I think that maybe Diana knows more about this. Diane, do you know about the 18th and the more practical side?
Yeah, the idea was to present a framework to the other focal points who will come together in the meeting in Brussels I thought on the 18th, but now I'm starting, I didn't know anything about the meeting on the 17th, so the aim was to present it to the focal points who come together from Europe on the 18th.
Yeah. No, the thing is that I organized the meeting on the 18th, and I wasn't aware that it's the same meeting on the 17th and 18th, and I wasn't aware, I know there is a slot for you, but I didn't know it had been said that it was on the 18th. That would probably work, but I just wondered if you had sort of agreed on a time with anyone.
I apologize. I mean, then we should have been in contact with you. I don't know.
No, that was not the time first. Sorry, no, the time slot has not been decided yet, so it should be one of those days. It has not been decided yet.
No.
So
anyway, we can sort that out. Okay.
Okay, so this is a good practical question, and we will take care of that. Good that you ask.
Yes. Yeah, let's sort that out separately.
Yes, of course. Is it okay for you to dive in the content? Because we have a question for you, and the question is when we look at the aim of the learning strategy, you could say it's that it supports a better implementation and integration of social policies in the nature conservation programs, but we want to make this more concrete. So what we would like to do today is try to find a kind of vision of how would it look like in your practice or the practice of the target group for this learning trajectory. And one of the things is that we could dive into the future. So suppose there would happen a miracle and you would wake up tomorrow in a working environment in which you yourself and all of your colleagues are well equipped to integrate social policies in their work. What is one thing that you would like to see or experience when that would happen? So what is for you one element that is so important that you hopefully see that in work practice? And we would like to invite you to use the chat on the right side to write your idea or vision or just a few words.
And who is the guest, by the way?
Joost.
Joost is going to the meantime.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Yeah.
I feel very
that's fine. Yeah. As long as we know that it's not a mystery guest.
Well, sorry.
No, that's fine.
So Chris has embraced the rights-based approach. Social considerations explicitly included into all decision making. Yes. So for Chris, I would be curious to how can I see that people embrace the rights-based approach?
Sorry, what is the question?
So can you make it even more concrete? Because how what do you see people do, or are there tools that they are using, or so suppose the team you're working with is embracing a rights-based approach. How does that look like?
For me, it would mean that in your context analysis, you have clearly included the consultation, the analysis, of all stakeholders, and in particular the most vulnerable in your project area, as having rights, and WWF also defending their rights in having equal access to natural resources.
Okay.
So for me, it very much starts at the beginning.
Yeah.
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 That's at the program and project design phase.
Yeah.
Well, even before, it's really the context analysis. So it is. I mean, once we have decided to work in Africa in a particular area, that designing your project in your very first analysis, you don't. Well, of course, you need to have your conservation target, but that at the same time you really embed it in a social and also political context.
Yeah.
And doesn't that also imply that, apart from recognizing that there are groups with a not so fortunate power position, that WWF also makes an extra effort in bringing them to the forefront and ensure that their rights are being respected?
Yeah. And that already is, I mean, embedded in the policies that we have, say, a special responsibility that the most vulnerable, in places where we work are say, well protected, or, receive additional attention and care.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think
Who would like to respond? Joost?
No, I'm just wondering, it's a very instrumental way of looking at it, and I think that's always where we get in these kind of discussions, and I think it's a good way forward. So, yeah, you make your analysis, and you make sure that the criteria are there, and it's there in the lens. But I think what we also would be looking for is that actually, I said myself somewhere, it should be explicitly part of a decision making, but what you also would like to see is that it's intrinsically embedded in the thinking of WWF colleagues to do that.
Yeah.
So it's not something that needs a tool or needs to be someone to look after that it's happened. You would like, as good as the WWF that usually takes conservation and nature into consideration, that it's a second nature actually to take the social one into consideration as well. So it would be something intrinsically, and that's more at a level
awareness and values, and not so much on the level of tools and tricks.
Yeah.
And that links to what Lisa said, that conservation practitioners no longer need to think about it, but it's their second nature.
Yeah.
And that they see that conservation is a social process.
Yeah.
It's like internalized.
Yeah.
Yes. And maybe it starts with more the instrumental way to get it in your fingertips and get it in your brains. Yeah, but
I think actually what yours is saying it's the other way around. I mean, unless we have a mentality shift, which I mean, we should also recognize that there is a mentality shift going on in WWF.
Okay.
And Lida knows that better than anybody. If you look at, you know, how we have formulated practice goals, the fact that the social policies and so on have been really are now at the center also of senior management, more out of say concerns than out of say intrinsic. But anyway, whatever the motivation is, so it is. It all starts with a mentality shift, and then it becomes an instrumental question. So how are we actually going to do it? But I think in the context of what we are doing here, we have to be more instrumental. You know and I think we need to have other strategies in actually influencing the way of thinking in the network. But that is also part of the roadmap of influencing senior management. I think for this learning trajectory, it is basically that we should also recognize that I think that shift is ongoing, but basically that we don't have the capacities, or people think they don't have the capacity to actually do it.
Okay.
Okay, could I reflect a bit?
Yes, Göran,
and I think I wrote that on the workplace thing that, I mean, to me it's not only a question about socially responsible conservation, it's also about effective and sustainable conservation. Understanding that we need to work with people, not as beneficiaries, but as agents for change, and as ultimately the stewards or managers of natural resources. So that's the shift that I think is the big challenge, not to look at just the social development part as bringing benefits to people, but actually looking at it as putting people in charge and giving people responsibilities, giving people opportunities to claim their rights and to be part of the process.
Yeah.
That's really big.
Okay.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Joske, shall we take the next step?
Yeah. So the way we will be working is we will have 3 sessions like this, which will be really working sessions. So today, this was a good start, I think, to talk about our targets. What do we want to change and to achieve with this e-learning and the target group? So, and then in the next section, we will become very practical. Then Sibren and I will talk about what works in online learning. And then we will start to brainstorm about building blocks. And then in the 3rd session, we will frame the trajectory. So it's quite an intensive and creative process, and I hope you will enjoy it. And but as a start, something about the roles. We've worked with Diana and Lucia, and the way we see it currently is like this. You are really key key stakeholders in this design, and because of your experiences and background. And we call this our design group. And we will be the people making certain design decisions. But besides that, there's a larger group with focal points. We can ask for inputs. And then finally we will have the meeting on the 18th. I don't know, Diana, if you want to say something about the focal points. This wider ring.
The wider ring, that was the idea that we make use of the wider ring based on their expertise, so their specific expertise, and also to create a buy-in so that we don't work in a too small group and then need to engage all the other focal points. But since Joran, you are leading also this group, I very welcome also your thoughts on this idea.
Yeah, I mean, there's two aspects here. One is that we're talking about the Europe, North America group here, because there's a key issue here that it's unfortunate that both Patricia and Edmund are missing in this call, because what we said in the early stage was that it's important, if we want to do this and design it in a way so that it can be used not only for us, but can also be used, at least the platform can be used by the network at large, then it's important to get the perspectives of people from the other regions as well. But when it comes to our focal points in the ENA hub, I mean, there's about 12 to 15, 12 I would rather say, who have been somehow engaged and involved in the past year or 2 years. But many of them are actually quite new in their role as focal point, and we haven't had a physical meeting for more than 2 years. And the last meeting we had, there was only a relatively small group of people that were in attendance, and several of them have actually been replaced now. So, in terms of the good and the bad side of it is that we do have some people with very good experience that who can give input in terms of, call it experts. And we have also have people who are part of the target group among the focus points.
But I think we would like to include at least at a certain point the regional coordinators.
Yes.
I think because they are, so that would be for Asia Pacific, that would be Prishais and Christina probably.
I mean, they have been informed that they have been invited, but they haven't sort of raised their hand.
No, but I don't think they have to be included in the design group. But at least we should reach out to them once we have made, say, significant steps to ensure that at least from the three different, from the three other different regions, there is a reflection, for instance, on building blocks.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I can just add. Sorry for breaking in.
No, I thought for just very practical, let's agree that at the end of each design meeting, we will see how we can invite others to think along our products. And so at the end of
the goal is really to engage them from the beginning onwards. That's I think the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
So the idea is that we'll engage more people during the process.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah, no, just a question, because I thought we would try to get better engagement from those regional coordinators, like also Gilles in North America, Patricia. In Africa, they have done a lot of work where we can build.
Sure.
And I was a bit of wonder, but maybe I'm missing Edmund here.
Oh yes, you missed that, but he was stuck in the airport. Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Patricia should also be here, but we don't know what happened. So she has received the invitations, but I will check it out later. Yeah. So
that's maybe for me a question. One of the people who is in close connection with Patricia, I think it would be more helpful if for example, I don't know who works with her, Joran, if you can make her a line and Chris. Apparently, that will have more impact than an unknown Diana from the Netherlands.
I know that Patricia is very much engaged at the moment, but I will reach out to her again.
Oh.
Okay. Great. Yeah.
Can I also say that we do have a SC2C core group, which is me, myself, Christina, Patricia, and Jill from Latin America. And all of us are communicating on a not quite daily but very regular basis. So I can easily, take this up. And what I was trying to say just earlier was that after the 18th or the 17th or whatever it is, we actually have a global meeting of the steering group for SC2C, where Christina and Patricia and Jill will be attending.
Okay.
That will be on the next day, on the 19th and the 20th, in the same place in Brussels. So after on the 18th, we can immediately follow up also with the global steering group. As I said, also the coordinators, including myself, are very busy people. So the best thing is if we can actually tie in other people from the region, who may have more time and possibly also more experience and expertise in developing material.
Yeah, but I think, Joran, that is the responsibility then of the regional coordinators to see if you're being tied up. I know from the EU group there is what's her name from UK? Elaine has offered to participate. Elena, yeah. And there might be others from the other regions. But I think if the coordinators could facilitate to ensure that there will be regional input.
Yeah. We'll also discuss that at 4 o'clock at the end of this meeting. Very practically, that who will send what to whom for input. So what are we going to decide in these 3 sessions? We will design a blended learning trajectory with building blocks, objectives and content. As said, our deadline is somehow the 18th. But for all of you, for some of you, blended learning may be a new concept. Because so far let's say the working title has been e-learning. But what is really e-learning? E-learning nowadays consists of many different learning activities which are possible online and face-to-face. So to give you an idea of what we could design, what could be our building blocks, it's possible to design an individual e-learning, which is somehow similar to what was developed for the financial institutions, working with financial institutions. But it's also possible to include, for instance, a webinar series. That's also a possible learning activities. Or activities in a somehow learning community, or face-to-face training could also be part of a blended trajectory. Think of team coaching or an intensive online group course in which the participants will get assignments and watch videos and discuss. So we see that as all possible elements that we can incorporate. I don't know if there are any questions about this. If you have any questions, you can also type it in the chat. And we had a look at already a few. Chris has a lot of experience with the online group trainings in various years. And we had a look at the evaluation, and we saw that it was really highly appreciated. But it was quite a lot of online workload. but people also like to work together in small groups and involve other organizations and learn more about successful partnerships. Chris, maybe you can add to the lessons from these online courses.
Yeah, it should also be pointed out that online courses were always linked to face-to-face meetings.
Yeah.
So what we did is in 2011, 2013, we were focusing on conservation managers from Africa and the focal points from in the different countries. And indeed, it was quite intense. We always requested permission from supervisors. You know, we tried to make an assessment about the workload per weekend, and there always had to be permission from supervisors so that it is not on top of all of your other work. So that helped, but nevertheless, you also saw that some participants were a bit overwhelmed. It was it differed quite a bit, but so we were also flexible at certain points, so that because it was weekly, but then we would also take longer periods, and it was really, there was a very, very strong individual coaching. So the group was usually around 20 people, the participants, and like Patricia, but also Valencia and Helena and myself. So it was always the four of us. We have done the 3 trainings. Each one of us always had 4 to 5 people that we would coach individually. So where we would also on a weekly basis would reach out, would feedback, so on and so on. That worked. I mean, in the end, it worked quite well. But of course, it was very intensive, and in the end, the group that we could reach was relatively small. And I don't know, but we should now, I mean, maybe do a check about all the people that we have trained. How many are still working for WWF? I think it might be quite disappointing. So 2011, 2013 was really for Africa, and then 2014 was on request of the European offices. So that training, it was this, and we always adapted the kind of training, because the perspective from an NO in Europe in dealing with social issues is different from the issues that you have to deal with as a conservation manager in Africa. So we tried as much as possible to really link it to the working reality of the people, the different perspectives. And then what really worked very well is then having the face-to-face meeting immediately after. So what we also did is the finance training, and basically we did the online training once more. So the subjects were the same, but that was the point in time where you really had the really interactive part. So where people could discuss, could reflect, about different experiences. And what you also saw that it helped very much by having done the training at the face-to-face in building then up, say, the SD4C network. So because the people had met, they knew each other. So I think, especially for Africa, it really helped in establishing the SD4C network. And Göran, I don't know, but I think it initially that is how it started off in Europe as well. That the people who did the training were also the people who then became part of the SD4C community. But it would, as I said, it would be interesting now to look back and see what has happened to all the people that we have trained in the street.
So there's a high turnover in WWF? There's a high staff turnover?
Well, either people are completely committed and never move, or people get completely fed up after 2 years and they leave.
So either they stay 20 years or 2.
I would say that out of the people who attended the 2014, if I remember more or less correctly who that was, some of them did become, focal points for their offices, or and some of them actually were already. But also, for example, the people from my office who attended continued their work pretty much as usual and have not been particularly engaged in the community. But they may have had a good use for the training in their own work. I would add to the experience, based on what Chris said, that one experience is also that it was very, very resource intensive in terms of what you said, coaching. And it's a model that is not really easily replicable or upscaled.
Sure. I think there's to keep in mind when we start really designing our next session. Just a small, very rapid recap of what has been done before. We read all the documents. So WWF has a lot of social policies on these various topics. However, has not reached a level in which all policies are put into practice systematically. I think a lot has been done already on the ground, but it's not the same in all countries and it's not as systematic. So this lack of shared practice damages the credibility. There has been a needs assessment already done with 20 respondents who were all focal points, by the way. And they mentioned that one of the obstacles is lack of easy-to-use tools. So they mentioned the tools quite a lot and skills as well, but also this serious leadership. Keeping in mind that we also have the roadmap, of course, to tackle these things. And they say the most urgent ones to tackle are human rights-based approach and gender. What was also interesting is that many have already followed training sessions, but they were all external, so they learn individually, they learn all kind of things, but which are not put into practice again systematically. 3 quotes which I liked is somebody said we need to simply design practical on-the-ground conservation projects with the social dimension built in. So really translate the policies. Somebody else said everybody works with the social aspects already, but often they underestimate the significance and also go beyond policies to develop practical applications. So that was what came out of the needs assessment. Then there's already been also a design session which said that what we are going to design should be open for everybody in WWF and also partners, but it should be mandatory for the focal point, the different types of focal points. And the aim is put in general as ensure the connection between the social policies and daily practice. And that we should start with English, and if need be, some of the materials can be translated later in French or Spanish. So that was already, before we go, so that's what we already gathered from what has been done so far. I don't know if there's anybody who would like to comment or add. Does this reflect also what you have experienced?
Maybe this one.
What surprised surprises me in here is that I don't see really mentioned that these focal points, they have a role to empower others. And I don't see anything here back in how to empower others. And maybe they think that it's a lack of skills, but I also wonder and I question whether it isn't a lack of influencing others and empowering others. And that's I like to bring to Knit and Joost and Joran, because that is what surprised me after I read this.
Yeah, so they really see it as a tools and skills problem, and they don't see it as that they're not smart in influencing the way the colleagues work.
Exactly, exactly. And that's what I would expect is also part of the challenge in implementing social policies.
Definitely is, and I mean, if we only look at our own region, there's a huge difference in the first amount of time and the character of mandates that focal points have to work on these issues specifically. Secondly, there's a huge difference in how they are situated within their offices. If you compare my position with somebody else maybe locked away somewhere in a corner in a specific program with very little access even to senior management. Which is very different from my situation. I think in many of the offices in other regions, the C4C focal points are even further removed from having access to or opportunity to work with and train colleagues.
Yes, sure. Yeah.
And what we have done in all regions now, and most recently in our own region, is to draft a kind of ideal wish list terms of reference for focal points. That we have, in our case, we have communicated this both to the CEOs and the conservation directors of all the offices in Europe and North America. And that was sent out actually from Marco's office, so that it sort of comes from above, not from the focal points itself, as a way of trying to give them something to refer to when they discuss try to negotiate for more time or more opportunity.
I also would like to add something which we got from one of our discussions with Edmund. He also pointed to the lack of incentives in the systems we have been within WWF. For instance, reporting and that kind of systems. Nobody asks to report or to reflect on social issues. So he said that is also a very big obstacle.
I see Lisa talking. Lisa, you are talking, but we can't hear you now. Let me see if I can. I think I can do it. I can unmute you. Yes, now it should be fine.
Okay, I was just thinking, oh God, nobody's listening. Okay, sorry. So just a couple of points, kind of general. I've been wanting to make some comments throughout, but then nobody was hearing, so it's okay. So anyway, it's great. I'm so happy, actually, as Chris can imagine, to see SD4C actually still going strong. This could have been something that just fell by the wayside, but it's brilliant to see that the momentum has built, and that's wonderful to see. A couple of things. For instance, the SD4C focal point. So when I left WWF, this was just beginning to happen. And it's great that now, particularly in Africa, I think, there are focal points in many of the offices. Since leaving the organization, I've still been working closely with WWF in North Africa. So, governed by it was the Mediterranean Program Office who was in charge of WWF North Africa, and we had this big program on culture and conservation, basically. So putting people and their cultures and their practices and beliefs, etc., in at the heart of the conservation work. And what a problem WWF North Africa had in convincing the medical office and so the hierarchy, the powers that be, that this was actually an important project for them. And so I'm thinking, even if there is a focal point, if decision makers and the steering people in the organization are not fully convinced and bought in and practicing these principles, then really, people are having a really hard time.
Yeah.
Another very quick thing I wanted to mention was that although somebody had mentioned the fact that, that there has to be a particular push on human rights and gender issues, I think all four of the social policies, they can't really be separated. So Indigenous people, poverty, gender, and human rights, they're all related in many ways. And so I would just stress that point. And I just wanted to ask, have any of the policies actually been updated? Are there any other ones in place? And Chris, what happened to the social safeguards work that Jenny Springer was leading ages ago as well? Thanks.
Well, thanks, Lisa. But I was wondering, when you talk about this empowerment or getting the focal points in position, there is, of course, a relation with learning as well. It's not only the hierarchy, you can also talk about skills. So when you look at it from your practice, what kind of skills would you say these focal points need to be able to have more voice or be more able to play their role?
I think, it depends very much on the personality and the skill set of that individual person and how well they're regarded within their office. So, you can see people like Christina in your Indonesia office. People listen to her. She knows what she's talking about. She's been around for a long time. And therefore, people will listen. If you have a more junior person that perhaps doesn't have as much experience, well, so it's always a case of individual personalities, right? But I think in terms of skills, people are really looking for, what has really worked well in other places and what really hasn't worked well, and being able to talk openly about situations where, we've really not done as good a job or we've caused more conflict or, the work has led to environmental degradation because of this or that. All of these things, if we can talk about them openly, I think, and provide a platform for that, I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yes?
First, it wasn't very to hear your question, Lisa, so I'll try to respond. There hasn't been any update of the actual policies in 2011 or so. There has been the addition of specific guidelines on engagement with civil society organizations, which is slightly different, but it's actually part of the human rights framework. And then what you say about the four policies, we don't have a HRBA policy as such, but that is the sort of thing that ties our policies together, isn't it? Pretty much the rights-based approach to conservation. So I agree with you that if you look at what is common for the different policies, and then the poverty and the gender and the indigenous and other aspects are just part of that application of those principles. And a final reflection, I'm thinking focal points are only one of the target groups here. So in terms of this whole issue of empowering focal points, given that we're looking to develop a flexible thing, that would probably be something that could be a specific component for that target group. To have more of a module that talks about the role of as people see focal points and how can we work within our offices and how can we work together
Yes,
to
of course.
sort of strengthen the importance of these issues. But
Yeah.
in terms of the more general training, that would not be equally relevant to everyone.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe it's because Lisa started talking about this North Africa example, and that's exactly what we would like to do now. To see, because I think for this blended learning strategy we definitely need good examples. So we were thinking of using these examples now in our conversation, also to try to find out what makes a positive example a positive example, what works, what are success factors, and from there make an analysis of the skills and the knowledge that is needed to be able to create more of these positive examples. So in the email you received last week, we already asked you to think about some examples you know of, and maybe even examples that are closely related to your work practice. So examples you know of, but are not like the top 3 familiar examples, because I think it's also nice to see if you can make them sometimes a bit smaller. So let's first exchange what kind of examples you know for thinking about, and then we like to split up in pairs of 2 and try to elaborate on the examples a bit. So I was wondering what kind of examples you were thinking of. Who would like to? Joost, did you have something in mind? Oh.
Actually, I saw the question and I just pushed it away because I didn't have too much time. But just if I ask the things straight out of my head, one of the best and biggest examples is the work we've been doing in Namibia, which I think is also very good context to better understand how it works, because I think it was just this week a report saying the work we do in Namibia is where working with communities doesn't only not only provide community benefits, it also supports better conservation results, so there's a biodiversity increase. So that's what you really would like to have, that the result of the work that we do serve nature, serve the people. I've been there just recently for a visit and it was an opportunity to talk to the people who have been doing that, and I think Patricia is much better in position to talk about that than I am. But it also shows you that it's work that took 20 years to get where they are now. It has been a lot of, done with increasing insight, but it's, in the end, they came using that moment what was the best thinking in terms of how to deal with indigenous people and how to deal with gender. So for me, that would be an interesting example of how you would like to see social policies being applied, and especially showing how applying these policies can lead to better results.
Okay, thank you. Göran, do you have another example?
No, first I want to endorse Joe's example because it's actually a case also where what I said in the beginning about the challenge. It's not actually WWF implementing projects, but it's WWF supporting local organizations and conservancies to implement their own projects. So we don't even have our own programs in Namibia. Okay, so it's really excellent from that point of view. In terms of indigenous peoples, I think Indonesia's work in the heart of Borneo is excellent with the Indigenous Peoples Coalition that they have supported, that works both in Sabah and Sarawak in Malaysia, as well as in Kalimantan in Indonesia, trans-border coalition of indigenous peoples organizations. Christina has been a large part of that work. But I also wanted to mention that the Ethical Sea Steering Group, under the coordination of Christina, has been developing, or is still in the process of developing, it's taking far too long, mainstreaming guidance document. And as part of that work, Christina has collected, I think, about 30 case stories that illustrate different aspects of application of the social dimension. So it would be a good idea, I think, to get access to all those case stories and look through them, because they are selected in order to illustrate both different aspects as well as different experiences, both good and not so good experiences.
Just the second wasn't me. Good.
What did you say, Lucia?
I think that's very good. It's very interesting.
Yes.
Those case studies.
Yes, I agree. Chris, what would you like to add?
Yeah, I think we have many different and good examples. I want to stress also the point of Göran, and I think something that has to be very well addressed in the training as well, is what is the role of WWF if we are talking about these social issues. And immediately, or I think most people would think, okay, it is that we deliver, say, social benefits, and it is very often social economic benefits to beneficiaries, to the people we are working with in specific areas. But I really think that is only one aspect, and it is even an aspect where I think we have to be very, very careful, because we then, sometimes deliver social benefits almost more as presents than as empowering tools. So we have to be very, very clear about what it is if you're talking about, say, the social benefits and the role that WWF should play. I just want to mention two very small examples. One here from Suriname, where WWF from the Shared Resources Program supported the drafting. So we hired, a legal advisor in drafting a revised nature conservation policy. The previous one was still developed by the Dutch in 1954, and in that policy there is no way that communities, indigenous or any other, local groups can have access or have any rights in terms of management of areas. So we have drafted this new law, and there has been a wide consultation process and so on. And I think that is an excellent example of a role that WWF can play in actually also working, say, on enablers for, say, inclusive conservation. So it is a completely different kind of example, but sometimes I think maybe as WWF we can even be much more influential in working on enabling conditions that might, for instance, facilitate inclusive conservation. A completely different example I want to mention, but I think is really interesting, is that WWF Madagascar has worked and has implemented governance indicators. And that brings me back to your remark, Diana, that where what is his name? Edmund just said that because there is no reporting, we are just not able to make visible what is what the social aspects are of our work. So I want to see if we can really use the example of Madagascar, where they have actually implemented the governance indicators, and that highlights a little bit the work that we are doing in ensuring that there is a equitable management regimes on natural resources. You know, whether it is for forest management, whether it is for fisheries and for others. So I think that is really a very interesting example, completely different. And another example, again from Madagascar, I still find it very interesting that they are using social policy compliance. Social policy compliance tool. And that is they're using a social policy compliance tool. So also to see if you have new programs, if you're designing new programs, are we actually applying and implementing and paying attention to the social policies that we have?
Yeah. Okay.
So again, a very practical tool, and I think a very good example in how you can internally in a WWF office get much more focus and attention to for social issues.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for these examples. What we would like to do is ask you to talk about one of these examples in pairs and think about what are the success factors that make this example a success example. And you said a bit about it, of course. But when you have that concrete, the next question is, what are the knowledge and the skills that we need to be able to make these kind of projects a success? So what were like the top 4 or 5 skills that make this success example happen? Because we could use that for the learning trajectory. So that is the question we have for you, and I think it would be nice to have at least Lisa, can you join in one of these examples to elaborate on it? I think you know the context very well. Oh, we can't. Oh, wait! You're muted. This is our thing. Yes.
Yeah.
No, sorry. I think I missed a number of your examples. I got the Namibia one, and then I got the tail end of Chrissy's Madagascar situation.
Okay. Yes. But when we link you to, for example, Chris, then probably you can start your conversation on one of the examples, because that is the idea, that we work in pairs for like 5 to 7 minutes to see if we can find the success factors and the skills that are needed in these examples. Okay?
Okay.
Yes, Joost and Golan, is that okay for you as well? Because then we will make groups. The way we are here together now will change a bit. Because when we start the groups, then you will only see one of the other participants. That's the idea. Hopefully.
May I ask also how long do you expect it to do?
About 5.
Initially, I would like to leave this meeting a bit early.
Yeah.
And I don't still have a picture of the process forward. So I mean, we went straight into we went straight into these exchanges on content and things, but I would be eager to, before I leave the meeting, to understand, how we work, what next, and what are we expected to do, etc.
Yes.
So, sorry for being a bit of a
Yes, of course.
a bit of a problem. I don't absolutely have to leave it at 3:30, but
Yeah. Okay, my suggestion would be, because I understand that you want to know what is going to happen after this session, and what can you do.
This exercise. I mean, how long would you expect that we do this?
Yes. For this exercise, we have like 5 to 8 minutes. We will pass by and see how it goes on. But I think this is an important part to really get these learning objectives more concrete.
Yes.
So we definitely want to do this. And then after that, we will take some time to make it a bit practical, what will happen after this session. Is that okay?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Joska, are you going to do this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I count 3 to 1 and then you'll be in the subgroup. And we'll send you a message somewhere in the corner just 1 minute before we end. Yeah? So good luck. Nou, volgens mij doet het een stuk makkelijker. Maar dan moeten we Lies even unmuten, denk ik.
Yeah.
So are we then?
But they are not in the group yet.
We are not yet in the group, I think.
Is it?
No.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Okay.
No.
It will be a blind date, right?
Ja.
Ja, nu wel. Yes.
Ja. Ik dacht dat als je die groepen indeelt, dat ze meteen begonnen. Oh, ik snap het al, ja.
Wij kunnen
ik
nu...
had gezien, je kan ze een berichtje sturen. Even kijken, moeten we dan 5 minuten doen en dan een berichtje sturen?
Ja, want wij kunnen nu niet zien wie bij wie zit, hè?
Jawel, je ziet het hier. Chris bij Joran, Diane bij Lisa en Joost bij Lucia. Zie jij het niet?
Nee, dat kan ik niet zien. Oh, maar dan is het goed hoor. Zijn het handige groepjes?
Ja, vind ik wel.
Okay.
Ja, want het is natuurlijk het belangrijkste dat Lucia niet bij Diane zit.
Ja, precies. Ja, maar ik kan het niet zien, maar dan is het helemaal goed. Ja.
En wat zie jij dan bij attendees?
Nou, daar staat gewoon alleen het lijstje host en dan participants. En dan zie ik wel dat ze in een groepje zitten, maar ik zie niet... Ja, misschien moet ik
nog... Je ziet niet breakout 1, breakout 2, breakout 3?
Nee.
Ja, wat gek.
En ik zal maar niet op een knopje drukken, want dan gaat het misschien mis. Nee, dat zie ik niet.
Nee, precies. Maar ik dacht dat alle hosts dan hetzelfde zouden zien.
Oh ja, dat zou eigenlijk wel redelijk logisch klinken, ja. Maar ja.
Ja, want ik zie gewoon dat dan Chris met Joran is.
Oh ja.
En Diane met Lisa.
Ja.
En Joost Lucia. Ja.
Hoe vind je dat het gaat?
Nou ja, het goede is dat ik krijg wel meer zelf beeld van wat er allemaal speelt. Dus ik vond het wel een goede opmerking dat als je ik merk wel dat die focal points, dat is nog niet een goed ding.
Nee.
Weet je, dat is nog niet goed ingeregeld.
Nee.
Dus ze hebben het wel over, we moeten voor de focal points.
Ja.
Maar dat hebben ze helemaal niet goed doordacht. Dus als dat opeens iemand in een project is geworden, die kan gewoon niet veel. Dus daar leer ik wel veel van. En ik denk dat dit wel mensen zijn met veel praktijkervaring. Dus dat is goed. Ze houden ook wel van lekker lang praten of zo. Dus dat natuurlijk...
ja, we missen net een beetje de diepgang of zo, heb ik het gevoel nog. Maar misschien komt dat dan zo wel. Dat we een beetje de diepgang nog missen.
Ja, maar ik heb wel heel veel met die persona's. Dat ik denk, als je ze die persona's laat maken, dan moet je wel vanuit een persoon praten. Zo, dus dan komen ze zelf wel, dan krijg je ook wel diepgang door. Want anders blijf je een beetje op programmaniveau. En op, weet je wel, van we moeten meer in de mindset en we moeten meer dit, weet je wel.
Ja.
Dus
nou, zo komt het
nog wel goed. Want ik weet niet wel jammer dat Joran weg wil, hè?
Ja.
Want wat denk jij, Moeten we eerder stoppen of moeten we toch gewoon alles doen?
Ja, want we hebben eigenlijk dan nog maar 2 echte. Nou, Lisa weet toch ook wel veel volgens mij.
Ja, en Astrid kan wel blijven.
Ja.
En Joost.
Ja, precies. Dus dan hebben we 3 mensen van de inhoud eigenlijk. Toch, als we Lisa maar even mee rekenen.
Ja.
Nee, dan zou ik toch maar doorgaan. Kijk, misschien kunnen we hem verleiden, want hij zegt de hele tijd, ik hoef niet per se weg. Dan denk ik, ja, wat...
Ja, ja, ik zat ook een beetje van, ja, aan de ene kant als die weg moet, moet die weg. Maar, want we missen natuurlijk ook wel Edmond en Patricia inderdaad.
Ja. Ja, dus we kunnen ook die personen dan... Ja, ik denk wel voor ons werk is het toch wel goed als we het doen. Of niet?
Ja, precies. Want ik dacht even van, als we heel erg uitlopen, kun je ook zeggen, we introduceren die persona's. En ze doen dat samen en dan delen ze het in de Facebookgroep. Dat is natuurlijk een tijdsoptie.
Ja.
Ik weet niet, we zouden dat ook nog voor kunnen leggen aan iedereen, inclusief Joost. Of niet? Wat vind jij?
Ja, ik zou het denk ik toch inderdaad maar gewoon doen met degenen die er nu zijn. En dan kunnen we altijd Joran en Edmond bijvoorbeeld vragen om ook nog een persona uit te werken van eentje die we nu niet hebben dan.
Ja.
Zoiets maar.
Ja. Ja, precies. Ja, dan kunnen ze wel een opdracht gewoon, als we dat nou ook gewoon zo zeggen, van dat is dan je opdracht. Als je weg moet, dan kan hij ook zelf overwegen of hij het nu wil doen of later.
Ja, oké, dus hij moet in ieder geval dan die persona nog maken. En laten we dan als opdracht maar, want we hadden nog dat good examples, maar dan hebben we die case studies misschien ook al wel. Dus als we nou die tools verzamelen doen.
Ja. Ja.
Tools en die persona's.
Ja. Ja, dat is goed. En ja, dan moeten we even bespreken wie ze er al bij willen betrekken misschien, hè, aan het einde.
Wij? Nee,
die ze ook al dan uitnodigen om mee te denken, bijvoorbeeld die persona's voorleggen of zo.
Ja. Ja, maar ik denk dan moeten we ook niet...
Zal ik ze een doen van nog 1 minuut?
Nou, dat is misschien...
5 minuten. Dus het kort, ja.
Ja, wacht nog maar heel even, want ze zijn nog maar net bezig, denk ik, hoor.
Ja, als je wil kun je zelf naar een groepje slepen. Dat is een beetje risico.
Ja. Als we wat meer credibility hebben, dan wil ik dat wel een keertje doen.
Ja. Nou, ik ben blij dat Chris nog zo ging. Weet je, ik moest al die nummers zoeken en ik zat in te bellen, maar hij zegt gewoon verkeerd conference nummer.
Oh.
Maar ik dacht, is dat ook niet zo omdat we dat gewoon niet verlengd hebben uiteindelijk, omdat we het nooit meer gebruiken?
Oh, wacht, dat zou wel eens kunnen, ja. Dat we het gewoon niet meer hebben, die toegang.
Ik dacht, volgens mij hebben we gewoon gezegd tegen Dinges van die functionaliteit hoeven we niet meer. Ik zal het ook wel eens even vragen hoor, want nu is het vervelend als je het niet zeker weet dat het...
Ja.
Maar de conference nummer werkt gewoon niet meer.
Het zou wel kunnen, ja. Maar goed, uiteindelijk ging het eigenlijk best goed.
Ja, precies. Nee, ik voor jouw suggestie ook wel goed. Ik dacht, we kunnen ook al die video's nog uitzetten. Dat scheelt natuurlijk ook wel. Toch?
Ja.
Zal ik nu doen nog 1 minuut?
Doe maar. En hoe zullen we dit verzamelen dan? Even denken hoor.
Ja, misschien een nieuw whiteboard?
Ja, en dan gewoon even wat dingen optypen.
Ik zal even deze als exporteren.
Oh, je kan ook gewoon nummer 2 doen.
Ja. Hoe heet die? Voorbeelden. Ja. Je ziet ook wie er praat, hè? Dat is wel grappig.
Ja.
Nou, dat zie jij dan ook niet.
Ja, dat zie ik wel.
Nu is... oh, dat wel. Ja. volgens mij gaat dit wel goed. Ik denk dat het inderdaad, het is natuurlijk makkelijker als je niet, als je gewoon random kan indelen.
Ja.
Je moet het straks anders ook maar random doen.
Ja.
Maar dan weet zij natuurlijk niet wie ze hebben.
Kijk, qua programma, want we lopen natuurlijk wel uit, maar dat formuleren van de hoofddoelen, dat kunnen wij misschien dan ook wel samen doen. Dan doen we dat niet hier in de sessie.
Ja, precies.
Dan zeggen wij dat is
ik denk
ons
dat het
huiswerk.
toch met deze groep.
Dat gaat toch niet echt
Ik denk
lukken.
dat met deze sessie wel uitkomt. Nee, precies. Dan denk ik, die blik vooruit is wel belangrijk.
Ja.
Dan.
Ja.
Dat Joran dit dan al. Nou, ik ga ze eruit halen.
Ja.
Of you see, we're back.
You're back.
Did you have enough time?
Oh.
Or not enough time? Did you have enough time, you feel?
Yeah, we completed everything.
Right.
Joe.
I want to say it just time.
I believed you.
Okay, because we go into the examples, I think it's good to look forward because Göran wants to decide whether he would like to stay or or leave the session.
I'll stay on for now. I'll stay on for now.
You stay? So
Yeah,
is it
stay
okay
on.
for you to start with the examples?
Sure.
Yeah, okay, great. I don't know what the groups are, but let's see if we can start with Göran, with your group. With who, what was the example you were talking about and with whom did you have the
I was
conversation?
paired with Chris and we talked about both a little bit about Namibia, but also Indonesia.
Okay.
And as Joost mentioned, they took Namibia 20 years to get to where they are now, and it took Indonesia about the same amount of time to get to where they are with the coalition that I named, the Indigenous Peoples Coalition for Ladakh. So, and we had a discussion on whether it was, donor pressure to engage with people, but in these two cases, it's clearly not. It's the commitment, ambition of people within WWF to work in this way that has been essential in these successes, and the endurance to staying on. But also the final point that I noted down was the daring to let go, to not be in control, but to actually let these partners work and manage and plan on their own with our support.
Yeah.
But not with our leadership.
Yeah. And what was WWF role? Because not being in control, but what did they do?
No, I mean I think it's different. It's two very different examples, but I think it's been in facilitating and of course funding many of these activities, but also facilitating the contacts, the capacity building, the institution building, and all these things. But in the end, building independent institutions and structures that we have no influence over.
And
you it was the ambition of the people, was that just, how come in Namibia they had this ambition? Was it just the individual ambitions, or how come?
I don't know that history, I'll leave that to Chris.
Yeah, but I think it is really having champions. I mean, both in Namibia as well as in Indonesia, it is two individuals who are fully committed, who have a vision, and who have been there for 20 years and been very, very consistent.
Okay.
So having real champions and have the endurance, take the risk, and in the end, of course, are also being supported one way or another by leadership to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. And are these two individuals, are these people also in the organization seen as like the champions, or is it are these people like, do we really look up to them, or are these colleagues, and do you have the feeling that you can also take these steps?
I think they are both being recognized as really being leading examples.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what?
I think I want to mention even a third example. I'm thinking about Colombia. Where also very consistently they have been working on, especially also on indigenous conservation. And also there it is Carmen, who has also worked there, maybe also for 20 years.
Oh wow. Yeah. And when it comes to knowledge and skills, what can we learn from these examples?
I don't know about Chris Weaver, but I know for sure that Christina is an anthropologist, and I think the same goes for Carmen. But it would be interesting to see if there's any example of, say, a standard WWF person, so a biologist or a natural resource manager or a forester, who also is really a champion on social issues. Is he a biologist? I don't know. Okay.
He's a biologist, he's 100%. Yeah.
Okay, so we do have other
examples. Even if you have a conservation background.
It is possible.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is possible.
Okay. Well, Joost, what was the example that you were exploring?
I teamed up in a blind date with Lucia, and actually we didn't come down to the issue of examples, and we went straight on into what skills are needed, and we both have in common that we worked on a program, shared resources, so that helped us to have a kind of a common point of reference. I think one of the skills that we think, I think we figured out two, but Lucia, jump in. So one is, and I think that builds on what Chris says, context knowledge. You need context knowledge, and it's not only the knowledge, but it's also the skill or the attitude to really understand what's happening. So what are the communities that are around? What is their history? What context have they been facing over the last, I don't know how many years? So really going into the context, trying to understand it, and preferably do that together with your stakeholders. That's a way forward to really come to success. But it is more than just doing an exercise. It's really being eager to do it right and try to get a real deep understanding of your context. That was one. And the other one, maybe it's difficult to grasp, but it would be around also critical reflection. So I think what also came from the survey, people ask, give me tools, give me simple tools. And obviously we all want simple tools, and you push a button and then there is the answer. But in the end, it is that it's not, how do you say, it's not the tool, but the craftsman who makes the difference. So you really need to reflect on why do I use this tool? How do I use it? And what is actually the thing that I want to achieve with it? So that the capacity to critically reflect on your own actions and the consequences of that is another important skill, capacity necessary to be successful in this area.
Yeah.
So far, Lucia, please.
Yeah, in relation to that one, when people ask about tools, we really need to ask what's the question behind that question, because there is something behind. And the easy question is we need tools, but there is something behind, and that's the thing which we have to deal with.
Yeah.
And what do you think it is?
Yeah.
Now that I think that is in different contexts, it can be different things. But
in this case, many of the focal points said we would like to have practical tools. Why do you think it is?
Yeah, all those focal points also work in different contexts. So I don't know in general, but it can be that people feel difficulties to make the social policies implemented, and yeah, there are many problems which they can face. It can be that they don't have the position or
Power.
the power,
Knowledge.
everything.
Okay.
I'm much more critical. It is the easy way out. It is the easy way out. I mean, the tools are there. And you can even find them in the PPMS, but it makes, people, it's not all people, but people who are asking for tools are the ones who also think that addressing social issues makes life very complicated.
Yeah.
Because putting your conservation work, say, in a social political context makes it much more, much less straightforward. It's very easy. We have elephants, we have poaching, if you start then putting that in a social political context, I mean, it's not about training eco guards, but it is then maybe to start engaging with local communities.
Yeah.
And then it becomes very difficult and very complicated.
It takes too much time.
Yeah. And then it's easier for an anthropologist to get excited.
No, not even, it's not easier, but the fact is that you also know that if you're not addressing it, and I think that was your point, Göran, that if you're not getting that other part right, that you will never save the elephant. And in fact, that is actually what is happening anyway. So we are just training all these eco guards, and the population of elephants is just declining at an alarming rate because we don't work with the people in the area. Yeah. And basically, we see the people always as the enemy.
Yeah. And when you don't have the skills to communicate, it might be scary, and then the tools give you the feeling that you can have some grip on it. That might be behind it, I think.
Yeah, we also, I think, building on this, we also really came to more like attitudes rather than skills or knowledge. We really came to, my screen. We came to being a good listener, being a good negotiator, empathic skills. So that goes really further than tools as such. And being a human, also looking to the challenge as a human being. So that's really at another level. So that is, I think, what makes it pretty complex. If we try to analyze this, we can analyze skills and knowledge, but it's also the attitude and the mindset.
Yeah. Yes, in the
but
chat
I want to warn. And can we address that with this trajectory? That's more like a critical question. That is where I want to warn. I mean, let's not try to solve transformation of the network and address the whole transformation of the network through this e-learning. You know, this is a capacity building trajectory, and this is the one part that I think we can now address. And as indicated before, there are others. You know, there is buy-in from senior management. There is the need for mandatory monitoring on social indicators. You know, all kinds of other things that we can absolutely not address through this trajectory. When we started thinking about this, my point always was, for me, the outcome would basically be nobody in the network can say, oh, I didn't know that we had social policies, because that is still the standard answers you're getting. Yeah. Nobody, you know, maybe you're not applying them, but the excuse that you say, okay, oh, I didn't know that we had social policies, blah, blah, blah. I mean, and that is why it has to become mandatory. If you join WWF, you have to do this course. And then you can never say, oh, I didn't know that we had something on gender. Oh, I didn't know that we were, that the human rights issues are also part of conservation.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had that as part of the induction program in our office. Yeah. Everybody had to listen to me for an hour.
So you can never say.
We'll record you for an hour and then we'll send it to everybody.
Yeah. So we just need a 1 hour webinar with Joran.
Just to build on what Chris was saying, I think there is a link here between, you know, the awareness. It's not only about what you are expected to do. We can teach people, you know, they can get a list. You have to do this and this and this. We need to make them understand why they need to do it, or they will just check the boxes. But then again, tools is one. Knowing that you need to do free and prior informed consent, for example, is one thing. But then again, you will need the tools when you get to that, because it's not an easy thing. It's not a one-off little exercise. It's a long process that actually the people who budget for the program will need to be aware that this is going to take time and resources.
So for us, I think we have the challenge to create the right mix between the attitude, skills, tools, to make a small next step. Yeah.
We have one last exercise before we wrap up. So I'm happy, Joran, that you decided to stay. Because we will work again in the same groups. So it's not a mystery guest again. What we are going to do as the last exercise is to create personas. And we do this because it will help us to really empathize with the people who will be engaged in our blended trajectory. Personas are fictional characters who represent the different types of target groups. And fictional, it means that you can have 3 colleagues in your mind, but you create a new character. So it's not that you take one of your colleagues as an example, but the colleagues that you know can be informative in thinking of this character. And the reason to make it fictional is also because then it's not about blaming. Because it's not that we say that this colleague is doing this and this and this. So what we would like you to do is in the groups of 2 create a persona. You think about whether it's a male or female, what is his or her name, where does he or she work, what's the experience, what are his or her attitudes towards social policies, what kind of learning activities would he or she like to join, and what will he or she do differently after our learning trajectories. And so the way we would like you to present it, one of the 2, is really in the I form. So you really get into the skin of this character, and you say, for instance, I'm David, I work in the WWF office in Zimbabwe, my role is this and this. I've heard about the social policies and I know these and these tools, blah, 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 blah. Is that clear?
Maybe one
What a
question.
persona is, at least?
Maybe, but is it a characteristic? Is
Yeah,
it, is it putting all the...
you really get in the skin
Of one program manager, for
it's really
example.
to get under the skin of a colleague. And maybe this second point is second part is important to understand it. Is we'll choose each group will choose one persona, and the persona can either be, for instance, a focal point, or it can be a program or project manager, or a conservation practitioner, or conservation director, or an advisor in the Europe office, or a partner organization professional. So, and the way you can choose is to think of who for you is the key person who should participate in our learning trajectory. So far we've talked about the focal points, but I think we should really also discuss who should be involved in which kind of building block. So let's start with Chris and Joran. Do you have a preference for what kind of persona you would like to build?
Well, for me, the conservation director is absolutely key.
Okay.
Because that is in the end the person who really has to steer the context of and the way you want to organize your conservation work. But Joran, I don't know what your...
That's okay.
Fine. So, Diane and Lisa, which character would you like to develop?
Maybe we could be a partner organization.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fine.
Okay.
Lastly, Joost and Lucia.
Program manager or focal point? I think those are the two vacancies left, right?
Yeah. There's also the advisor in the Europe office, but there's sometimes there's overlap, and because the advisor can also be in the focal point.
Lucia, up to you.
Yeah, okay.
So Lucia, which one would you choose?
Oh, I thought we would make the combination. Now let's say the program manager.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we'll do the same thing. You will have 5 to 8 minutes, and 1 minute before you come back into the group, I will send you a message. So think of this character, and here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Zijn de groepjes hetzelfde nu?
Huh?
Zijn
Ja, hetzelfde groepjes.
Oh, ja, dat doet hij gewoon
Ik denk,
hetzelfde.
ja, dan zijn ze het ook een beetje gewend, toch?
Ja, nee, maar ik was meer benieuwd of het inderdaad ook zo is.
Ja.
Ja, oké.
Ja, precies. Dat, als je ze niet schuift, dan blijft ze gewoon in dezelfde groepje zitten.
Oké.
Ja. Ja, dus eigenlijk zo leren we wel over die werken met die groepjes. Ik denk dat dit wel dan goed werkt zo. Hè? Dat je dan niet te veel gaat schuiven. Het is vaak met dat slepen dat mensen eruit vallen. Hè?
Ik dacht nog met die discussie over die tools. Ken jij de Stages of Concern? Heb je wel eens iets over gelezen? Oh, dat is echt... Ik zal even opsturen straks. Want dat geeft de vraag naar tools een bepaalde positie. Het is namelijk niet zo dat het een verkeerde vraag is. In principe.
Nee.
Want als je heel nieuw bent in iets, dan kan het je heel veel houvast geven.
Dat is wat dan. Ja.
Dus daarom dacht ik ga er nu maar even niks over zeggen. Maar het is een aardig kader om het wel mee te kunnen nemen. Maar als je heel veel ervaren bent, dan ga je op een gegeven moment zeggen van, nou goed, die tools die heb ik wel redelijk in de vingers, maar het gaat me eigenlijk over dat gesprek. Hè? Zo schuift het op. Dus daarmee kan je dat ook wel een plek geven.
In de Facebookgroep te delen.
Ja, precies, dat dacht ik ook. Ja, ik moet even zoeken of we het ook in het Engels hebben.
Weet je waar ik ook nog aan moest denken? Met CP Square hadden we het ook altijd over tools en de practice, hè? En die tegenstelling op samen. En wat ik wel een mooie vond, is dat Etienne Wenger altijd zei van, ja, zeg maar, een goede tool die past bij de practice. Hè, dus als ik, noem maar wat, nu een trainingsgids van, ik noem maar even, Mireille Beumer ga downloaden.
Ja.
En haar praktijk is heel anders, dan past haar tool mij niet.
Ja.
Weet je wel? Dus dan heb je ook soms dat tools die eigenlijk door iemand anders zijn ontwikkeld of die komen vanuit een ander gedachtegoed. Als je die tool gewoon krijgt, daar heb je dan niks mee. Dus daar moest ik ook wel aan denken van, ja, mensen hebben misschien wel die tools, maar als je gewoon niet de manier is waarop je werkt, dan...
maar ja, of als de tool heel... Kijk, je hebt ook tools en tools. Je kan natuurlijk ook zorgen dat de tool ook dat sociale component onder de aandacht brengt, hè? Dus als het een tool is die gewoon een analyse op papier laat maken, dat vind ik iets anders dan dat de tool zegt, jongens, ga eerst eens even hiermee in gesprek, stap 1. Stap 2, maak een analyse. Stap 3, leg het weer terug bij. Hè? Ja, hoe sociaal...
Dat is niet, maar die kan het in beide gevallen niet doen. Want het doet me denken die... ik heb zelf wel gewerkt aan die formulieren waar je dan al die gender analyses moet doen. En nu zag ik dat ook bij die aanvragen van die subsidietenders. Maar hoe mensen dat dan invullen is gewoon van, ja, de vrouwen doen alles dit. En weet je, dat wordt echt zo'n oefeningetje.
Ja, maar ik weet niet of ik dat... Ja, precies. Maar je hebt toch wel heel andere soort tools of zo. Misschien moet je het dan werkvormen noemen. Ik moet zeggen dat ik ook wel dan daar eerder aan denk. Dus je hebt een invulformuliertje. Maar je kan denk ik ook tools hebben die meer een soort proces onder de aandacht brengen. Toch? Die je helpen om op een procesmatige manier te werken. Ja,
je hebt verschillende tools, maar je hebt bijvoorbeeld die Participatory Rapid Appraisal Toolkit.
Ja,
en als iemand echt die filosofie snapt, dan kan die het goed toepassen. Maar iemand die toolkit heeft en die gaat soms gewoon heel plat iets doen.
Ja, precies.
En dan, dan is de uitwerking heel anders dan als je echt die filosofie... Dus dat klopt wel wat Joost zei, hè? Van, eigenlijk veel meer dan een stakeholder-analyse doen, is het gewoon die filosofie echt in je vingers hebben.
Ja.
We zijn nou 5 minuten, zou ik ze nog 2 minuten geven?
Ja,
dat zou ik doe nu wel gewoon nog 1 minuut.
Ja.
Dan kun je ook een beetje op tijd afronden, denk ik.
Dan moeten wij straks ook nog maar even misschien kijken vanmorgen of zo wat we uit willen werken richting de volgende keer. Toch wel proberen om die... Ik denk toch dat we een flinke slag moeten maken met die leerdoelen. Ja. Zodat ze daar gewoon op kunnen gaan reageren ook. Dus ook al weten we het niet zeker.
Ja. Precies, dan kunnen we de volgende sessie daarmee starten.
Ja, ik denk ook dat dat goed is, ja.
Ja, ik denk ook dat het goed is. Ja. Nou, ik ga ze terughalen.
Via social policy.
And was very short.
Very short.
Yes. It was very short because we agreed to end at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I think because of our ears, 2 hours is really already quite long. So that's why I think it's better to finish on time. And if you want, you can still work on it and then we share it in the Facebook group. Eh? It's also possible. But let's hear very quickly from Chris and.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Can I make a suggestion that?
Yes.
To be quite honest, we were not completely clear about the assignment, and both of us were looking at the time. We have 10 minutes left, and as far as I'm concerned, and I think I speak also on behalf of Julian, we would rather spend 10 minutes on looking forward than on the persona, because I think we can probably share that by Facebook.
Yeah. That's a good suggestion. I agree. Yeah. So let's agree that couples will share their persona description. Can be half a page description, maybe even a drawing of your person. And if you still want to work on it a little bit more after today, it's possible. And then we'll share it in the Facebook group before the next session. Let's agree. And we'll use the last 10 minutes to look forward. And I think Sibrenne can look forward to what we will do in between the sessions, and maybe also view to the next sessions.
Yes, because we were thinking before this session, okay, what would be a good step for next week? And well, we have the personas, and the other thing is that because there is a lot of there are a lot of tools available, but we don't know which tools. So we were thinking maybe it is helpful to make a kind of collection of tools that are available. But of course we want to check with you, but we thought it might be good for the blended learning trajectory that we kind of make a list or a collection of tools that are useful in this area. But I see you, Chris, maybe you...
No, I think also in light of what we have discussed beforehand, it's, you can make your list of tools. I mean, we can come up with hundreds of them. This is not going to help.
Okay.
For me, it's much more on, so what are really the learning goals, and how do we want, what are the issues that we want to address with them, and then once we have that clear, then we can start looking for tools to support it. But if we start with the tools, the list is endless.
Oh, okay.
And it will not help you at all.
No, okay. And for the questions you raise, what are the learning goals and the issues? We think that the personas will definitely help. So what we could do is start with that assignment. So create the persona and then think about when you look at this persona.
To be quite honest, I was very confused by the persona. We didn't, so Göran and myself, we didn't do this exercise because we didn't understand it.
Okay.
We didn't understand what the purpose was.
Oh, okay. And how was it for the others?
This slide that you just put up might help.
Yeah. So I've already used personas in my work for communications purposes, and I thought at the beginning it was also a bit of a waste of time, but actually it's really quite useful. Yeah. So we did one, Diana and myself. I mean, it's just useful in terms of people who are not, for example, my communicator, she's not experienced with the content, so she really needed to know who she was talking to. And so these personas actually help a lot. So I can imagine they would help you quite a bit in the development of this. So I'm happy to shove what Diana and I put on the Facebook page as an example. And then if it's useful, it's useful. If it's not, we move on.
Yeah, and we will also think maybe a little background, because we also chose for this activity because of the diversity in the group of participants for this blended learning trajectory. And we do think that a director needs other skills and knowledge than the practitioner. So it might help us to analyze from those different perspectives what does the blended learning trajectory need. So that is the idea. So when you have this director in mind and think about, okay, what is his or her role when it comes to implementing social policies, and you have this image, then it makes it easier to come up with the attitude, skills, the way social policies is in their work practice.
Yeah. But I think it's a good suggestion that Lisa and Diana posted. I think if you use an example, it becomes much clearer. What the person.
You also made a picture. We will also post.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so if it's not useful at this point to collect tools, maybe we can briefly discuss if there's a way we can engage a wider group of focal points at this point. And one idea I have, what we could also do is the way we looked at examples of positive projects or programs, maybe we could forward this same question to the focal points. Is that a suggestion? What do you think about it?
Sorry, which question you're referring at?
Can I suggest that
Chris?
Yes, Chris, you're welcome.
Yeah, but I wanted to suggest that. I wanted to suggest that because Edmund is such a key person in this whole process, and he really will be our, I think, a main champion to roll this out. I would suggest that you at least try to really have a session with him. So not say, okay, he couldn't participate, but I mean, really try to set up a meeting with him and go through what we have been discussing today, because I mean, we just have 3 sessions, and if he's not participating in one of them, I think we will really miss out a lot. So I think that is a very important one. I think the other one would be Christina and Patricia. So there are 3 really important persons that we, and Gilles as well. But she is more new, but so let's include her as well. So try to have maybe, if you don't manage to have a joint meeting, really try to have a one-on-one.
Okay.
So for your information, we've also recorded.
I think very valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've also recorded this meeting, and we thought of making it available to Edmund and Patricia to get them involved.
Okay.
And then they get the chance to react and as well in one way or another.
Yeah.
I need to say bye. I need to go to my next call.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I will hear what comes from it. Yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
How do I get out? Before I leave?
You click on the red left corner.
We made it
I don't
impossible.
have-
Yeah.
I don't have to put it.
Or you close the tab in your browser.
Yeah. They are gone as well.
Or you
Or
close
we
your
can help.
browser.
I think I can help as well.
Or you close your laptop.
There
I really need to go now. Also, can I just ask before I go? Who
Yes?
is, for example, Sophia, are you planning to attend in Brussels?
Me?
And there? Yeah?
I'm yes,
You will be in Brussels.
yeah. But maybe we will talk more about it. I think we need to talk more.
And the rest of you will join, I suppose, by Zoom or something. Okay, I have to leave now. So, okay, I expect you here
Okay.
soon enough.
Yes. Well, thank you, Joran.
Bye.
And yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we can wrap up together as well. So I think what we agreed upon is that we try to continue this persona exercise because I think it is very useful to get the diversity clear. And we will contact let's say Edmund, Patricia, and Christina and Gilles are new to me, but what I hear is that it is important that they're in the group as well. So that is something that we can do.
Sorry, I don't think. Sorry, Sibren, to react on that. I don't think that they should be part of this group because then the group will be too big.
Mm-hmm.
But they are like in the wider group.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, that is correct. That is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So otherwise, it's planning. Planning. It's not. We cannot plan that.
We cannot manage that
people. Then we will never succeed.
Yeah. Okay. And what Joyce and me will do is also based on the conversation we had. We will also try to come up with the first set of learning objectives, so we can also react and work on it and elaborate on it the next time. Because I think that is very important input for the next session.
Yeah.
And
so for that, so your personas are important. So it would be nice if that would be possible before Monday, maybe. Yeah. When is the next? Yeah.
Or at least Monday.
Wednesday. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So if we have it before Monday, it would be nice. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So next session Wednesday.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Bye bye.
Okay, bye bye.
Okay. Bye bye.
Ja.
Ja, die zijn er nog. Ik heb wel echt rode oortjes.
Nou,
gefeliciteerd. Dit zal ook in 2 uur snijden, want het is echt heel pittig werk wat jullie doen. Dus het is echt wel sowieso een later begin en mensen die zouden moeten komen dan niet komen, dat is heel vervelend. Dat vind ik ook, dat neem ik ook op, maar dat vind ik erg vervelend dat ik dat een half uur van tevoren...
nee joh, daar kan je toch helemaal niks aan doen? Nee.
Nee, maar dat vind ik wel vervelend. Je organiseert een meeting, maar goed. So be it. Dus ik wil echt jullie complimenteren onder hard work, want het is echt niet easy om het zo te leiden. En ik denk ook nog steeds, het was een heel goed design en je ziet een beetje wat voor mensen je ook in de kuip hebt. Dat is ook heel goed.
Precies, het zijn wel heel verschillende mensen, heb ik het idee, hè? Echt verschillend, ja. Dus Chris is wel echt zo, die gaat gewoon gelijk in gesprek. En Joran zie je dan flink denken, volgens mij. Ja,
ook met Joost, ja. Maar ik dacht, het is wel heel jammer met Edmund, omdat hij zo belangrijk is. Maar zeg maar, ik vond wel dat juist met deze groep, dus ik dacht van, jullie zitten natuurlijk iets verder van de praktijk. Ik vond toch dat er wel heel veel uitkwam. Dus zeg maar dat aan de positieve kant. Dus ze is wel echt leuk die